Welcome to Milo's Mods, ladies and gentlemen. So, this video is a little bit different. I'm going to talk to you today about blaster storage and blaster maintenance. Okay, so let's begin, shall we? This conversation is basically an offshoot of a conversation I've had with a couple people online or in comments on YouTube. A bunch of people say, well, I threw in the spring that you told me to, and now, after a couple months, the blaster shoots softer. Well, yeah, of course it's going to. Have you ever removed the spring? No. Well, that's why. Let me explain to you what happens when you put an aftermarket spring in a blaster over time. You suffer from what's known as compression. Okay, because the spring that you're putting in there is usually a little bit longer than the stock spring. So over time, being stuck in that shell like that, the spring will actually compress and it will become far less powerful over time. I mean, it's a very simple thing to do, to fix, really, too. It's so simple, especially with the newer blasters. Now, with the newer blasters, like the Pro Series blasters, or maybe the Tryon and the Valkyrie clone up there, they're all easy to deal with nowadays. You don't have to deal with the same problem that you had with the Elite Retaliator where you had to clamshell the blaster every time. Nope, not at all anymore. All you do is, like on this blaster here, it's got a spring plug. It's just one little screw, bam, you unscrew it, the spring pops out. So what you do is that, let's say you're done for the season. Season's over with. Great, you had a great time. You take your blaster home. You take the buffer tube stock off. You take a Phillips screwdriver. You unscrew the spring plug. You eject out your turf spring or whatever spring that you have inside it, and just shove your stock spring back in. Easy peasy, jackin' easy. Tighten it all back down. One spring, bam, and then you just put your blaster away, and then just take your spring and maybe attach it with a rubber band to the top of your barrel or something like that, so that way you don't lose it and you know which spring goes to which. It's what I do. When a season's over with, it's over with. Aside from maintaining a blaster or something like that, I always take the high-powered spring or aftermarket spring I have out. It's very simple. I just put it, I just basically just rubber band it right to the blaster. Blaster still functions, it just has the stock spring in it now. The same thing with the game face, the same thing with that blaster too. That blaster is very easy to do. It's only 3 screws, bam, the spring plug, bam, you're right there. You can take out your 25N Retaliator spring that's cut down and shove the stock spring back in. It's very easy, takes 6 minutes to do. And then just before you go to an event, you pull your stock, you pull your aftermarket spring out, slide it in, and remove the stock spring. It's easy. And that way you won't suffer from compression and you won't have problems of your blaster shooting soft. Another thing that you have to do too is that keep in mind, when we modify blasters, we're putting parts in these that really aren't supposed to go. Okay, whether if it's something from a simple safety delete to a bigger spring or bigger O-rings or whatever. So we always lube our blasters too. At the beginning of the season, we always lube our blasters. Every 6 months, you lube your blaster. If your season's over with, change out your spring. Put a stock spring in it so that way your springs won't suffer from compression and you won't have to be constantly buying springs. Springs cost anywhere from $5 to $15, depending on what kind of spring you want. But, like the spring for that Valkyrie right there, that was like a $10 spring. The spring for this Max Strike here, that's a turf spring. That was like a $8 or $9 spring. And you don't want to certainly trash a spring if you can help it, especially turf springs. Can't get them anymore. It's just a simple thing to think about, because if you take your spring out, the spring will not suffer from compression over time or anything like that. It'll stay fairly rigid and it won't compress. and you'll get a lot more life out of your spring, and it'll save you a few bucks in the long run, and it will extend the life of your springs. It's just simple thoughts. Well, thank you for watching my video on blaster maintenance and spring maintenance. Until next time, this is Myler's Mods signing off.